Hello, my name is Raven Durant, and this is my presentation on assessment for learning. Formative assessments are key in the teaching and learning process. Formative assessments provide constant feedback to the students to praise and correct and to help aid mastery of standards. Teachers must give formative assessments and follow through with feedback to ensure formative assessments are being used properly. Formative assessments allow students to be a part of their learning process. They provide constant communication between the teacher and student, which allows the mastery of standards and the learning process to be a fluid and ongoing effective process. The formative assessment content area that I chose was text structures. My evaluating processes this semester would be iReady Reading Benchmark, and we take the benchmark assessments in August, December, and May. We also do a benchmark assessment system by Fontes and Pinnell. It's also known as BAS, and this is where we are getting reading data because we are allowing the students to read to us so we can understand how and why they read and what their reading level is. I will also be using ELA unit pre and post assessments and weekly formative assessments. I currently use the grading policy that is provided to me by Fulton County Schools and my current school, Wolf Creek Elementary. The grading scale is based off of Fulton County's policy. 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89% is a B, 70 to 79% is a C, and 69 and below is an F. The grading weights were provided for our school system, and it is broken up into major assignments with the weight of 40% of the total grade, minor assignments with the weight of 55% of the total grade, and practice assignments, which is a 5% weight of the total grade. Major assignments include unit assessment and summative assessments. Minor assignments are classwork and quizzes, and practice is exit tickets and homework. The makeup and recovery policy is the policy that is given to us by Fulton County Schools. All students will have one opportunity each 9 weeks to redo/retake one major assignment slash assessment. Eligibility for redo retake is for students who received a 79 or below on a specific major assessment. Students are eligible to earn a replacement grade on the redo/retake no higher than 79%. Students' redo and retakes must be completed before the next major assignment is given or 5 days before the end of the marking period if there is no other major assignments given. Exceptions can be made for students who have excused absences during the 5-day window. My school is a school that practices professional learning communities. I'm a part of the collaborative team for fourth grade. This team is made up of 5 homeroom teachers. That consists of 1 advanced accelerated teacher and 2 groups of team teaching. Team A consists of Teacher 1 teaching reading and science and Teacher 2 teaching math and social studies. I'm a part of Team B. I teach reading and social studies, and my teammate teaches math and science. All teachers are required to teach ELA, writing, and health to all of their homeroom teachers. We also to all of their homeroom students. We also have one special education teacher. He uses the pull out method, and he pulls out his special education students from their homeroom classes to teach the areas that they need. And we also have one early interventionist plan teacher, and she uses the pull-out model to teach interventions of reading and math to the students that are in EIP. And we also have one grade level administrator. We have PLCs twice a week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Our Tuesday meetings is the entire fourth grade team with administration to discuss pre and post assessments, diagnostic data, PBS, PBIS updates, professional development, and discuss RTI processes. For example, one of the professional developments that we have participated in this year has been a writing professional development. And we have an outside person come in and she gives us tools to help better teach writing. Our other PLC day is Wednesdays. This is just the fourth grade team that I mentioned from the previous slide. And we talk about upcoming week's learning targets, curriculum pacing, progress of EIP students, and common formative assessments. A major piece to this is talking about the upcoming targets. And so this is basically saying what standards will we be teaching in the next week. And we're also comparing that to the pacing guide that is provided to us by the district. Unfortunately, we are a little bit behind based off of the gaps that the students have been showing. And so we are trying to come up with ways to get back on track with the district's pacing, but also show mastery in the concepts that we are teaching. All three common assessments assess the standard ELA GSE 4RI5. This standard states, describe the overall structure, and it is meaning chronologically, comparison, cause and effect, and problem and solution of events, ideas, concepts for information in a text or a part of a text. Common assessments were decided during our Wednesday grade level meetings. The assessments were brought to the team, discussed, then agreed upon. Teachers have the liberty to choose when and if they will give the assessment. The special education teacher can make accommodations based on the needs of his students. Feedback will be given to the students by a grade. The data from the common assessment will drive the next steps in instruction. Based on the data, the teacher will move on to the next concept or review the current concept. This was my first common assessment. This assessment had two passages, and the students were required to read both of the passages, then answer the 4 questions on the side. So the students had to be able to tell which text structure was used in each of the passages in this common assessment. And in this common assessment, it was on problem and solution. So the students had to be able to read the short passages and say that problem and solution was the text structure used in both of the passages. And they had to explain how they knew. Then they also had to answer the question, compare the information provided by finding 2 or more similar details about bullying that both texts share. Then they had to contrast the information provided by giving at least 2 differences between the 2 texts. Lastly, they were asked to tell how does comparing and contrasting the 2 texts on bullying give you a better understanding of what you've read. The next common assessment was also on problem and solution. This makeup was the same as the other one, where they had to read 2 passages and then answer a set of 4 questions. So after reading the 2 passages on pigs, they were asked to tell the text structure of each passage and then explain how do they know. Then they were asked to read the sentence from text 2 and then find a sentence from text 1 that shows a similarity and then explain their reasoning. It was imperative that they showed which passage was problem and solution because we were trying to see if they understood problem and solution based off of the data from the previous common assessment. After that, they're going to read how does 2 different text structures on the same topic give you the better understanding of what you've read. Lastly, they had to contrast the information provided by giving at least 2 differences between the 2 texts. Common Assessment 3 has the same makeup as the other 2 common assessments. There are 2 different recipes and they have to read them. So then they have to answer a set of 4 questions like the others. The question that they were first asked was to compare the two texts by text provided by finding similar ingredients used. Then they were asked to read a sentence from text 2 and find a sentence in text 1 that shows similar events and explain the reasoning. Then they were asked to contrast the information provided by giving at least one major difference in how these two recipes are prepared. Now, in this case, the question about asking the text structure was the last question. And they were asked, how does the text structure used in both recipes help you better understand the information? So I told them that they had to first tell me which text structure was used and then answer the questions. Because it was not asked just outright by saying which text structure is used like the other 2 common assessments, I made a verbal instruction of them letting me know before they even started which text structure was used, and they should have given the answer chronological order. All common assessments are the same. They each assess a specific text structure. There are only 4 questions, therefore students must answer the first question and 2 other questions correctly to show mastery. The team decided the first question must be answered correctly to determine mastery because this question requires students to clearly state which text structure is being used in the passage. The data will be used to determine mastery as a class. If 80% of the class shows mastery, the teacher will move on to the next concept. If not, the teacher will reteach the concept. Feedback will be given to the students in a form of a grade in the next class period. Here is the data for the common assessment number 1. This was an assessment on the text structure, problem, and solution. The graph shows how many students answered each question correctly out of a total of 44 students. So as you can see, 17 out of 44 answered question 1 correctly. 22 out of 44 answered question 2 correctly. 18 out of 44 answered question 3 correctly, and 15 out of 44 students answered question 4 correctly. This data shows that the students did not master the concept, problem, and solution. So I realized for the whole group instruction, I needed to reteach the problem and solution text structure, then give another common formative assessment. Only 34% scored 100 on the assessment. Based on the data of the common formative assessment number 1, I knew that I had to do an intensive direct instruction over problem and solution again. So this time I spent a week and I retaught problem and solution, and then I gave another common formative assessment. So these are the results for the second formative assessment on problem and solution. So as you can see, the growth was at 47% in mastery. 81% scored 100 on the common assessment. 41 out of 44 answered question 1 correctly. 34 out of 44 answered question 2 correctly. 40 out of 44 answered question 3 correctly. And 36 out of 44 students answered question 4 correctly. So after seeing the growth and having 81% of my students make 100 on the common assessment, I decided to move on to the next text structure, which was chronological order. Common assessment 3 was based off of the text structure chronological awareness. I spent a week with intense direct instruction, and this time it shows that the students mastered the concept the first time. So 86% of the students scored 100%. Looking at the test questions individually, you'll see that 40 out of 44 students answered question 1 correctly. 38 out of 44 students answered question 2 correctly. 32 out of 44 students answered question 3 correctly. 37 out of 44 students answered question 4 correctly. So because 86% of my students mastered this standard, I went ahead and I moved on to the next concept. But I also made sure I did some remediation for the students who did not master the concept in small group. The timeline of implementation. So first, I introduced all text structures over a 2-week period. Then I went into doing direct instruction on each of the individual text structures. So I spent 1 week teaching the text structure problem and solution. Then I gave a formative assessment at the end of that week on the text structure problem and solution. I reviewed the data and provide feedback. Well, because the data showed that the students did not master this concept, I spent another week giving intense direct instruction on the text structure problem and solution. At the end of that week, I gave another formative assessment on problem and solution. I reviewed the data and provided feedback to the students. This time, 81% of the students had mastered this concepts, so I moved on to the next text structure, which was chronological order. So I spent a week teaching the text structure, chronological order, and then at the end of that week, I gave a formative assessment on chronological order, and I reviewed the data and provided feedback. This time, the students mastered the concept the first time, and I was able to move on to the next text structure. Through this process of providing collaborative, formative common assessments and providing immediate feedback, I found that this was very effective. I learned that data analysis and providing feedback is the most important part of the formative assessment process. After my first common formative assessment, I noticed that there was a disconnect in the teaching and learning process the first time I taught problem and solution. I was able to use the data to reteach, and the class was able to master this concept after reteaching. I will continue to use this process to assess mastery on concepts. Thank you so much for reviewing my presentation. If you have any questions, please contact me via email at raven.durant@vikings.berry.edu. Thank you.